Are the Colleen Hoover fans just as toxic as the Zack Snyder ones? This week we find out. Hey there, Cinephiles. Today I'm reviewing It Ends With Us. Starring Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, It Ends With Us is based off of the hit Colleen Hoover book. To break it down in the most simple terms, this is just Blake Lively choosing between two guys, one from her past and one that might be too good to be true. Granted, if you clicked on this video or watched this movie, you're most likely to have read the book. In all honesty, I only watched this because it was kind of a hate watch that my bestie wanted to do, so shout out to you, bestie. And I gotta say, if you're expecting a positive review, unfortunately you're not going to get it here. Not to say that there isn't anything good about the movie, there is. Thank God for Jenny Slate. I mean, she's keeping this afloat as much as she can. In fact, she tops the list of good things about this movie. It is a short list, but she does top it. In fact, checking my notes, the only other good thing on that list is that I did chuckle once or twice. And so my goodness, there is so much just meh to fine to really bad stuff in this. A lot of the meh to okay stuff was a lot of the acting. No one necessarily had a bad performance in this. I mean, they did as best as they could with the material given to them, but there isn't necessarily anything that's going to stand out from this cast aside from Jenny Slate. And really, she's just kind of being herself. Also, last thing about this cast, the guy that plays Atlas, it sounds like he's not American because it feels like an Irish accent is sometimes peeking through, but that man was born and raised in New Jersey, and that's just baffling to me. But anyways, that's besides the point. I really just ended up feeling indifferent towards the film due to a lot of the just so-so filmmaking. And if I wasn't feeling indifferent, I was either feeling disgusted or just bored. So let's get into the bad and the ugly now. Starting off with the costumes. Look, I'm not a fashionable person, but my goodness, were those costumes distracting, because what were they? It went from a lot of just highly distracting stuff to a lot of plain and boring stuff to just stuff that didn't match. It really just felt like they were throwing anything on them, and as long as it was ironed, it was picture ready. Another baffling thing was the constant shaky cam. This was filmed in about 90% close-ups, and practically all of it was shaky cam. In fact, the one time that shaky cam and close-ups actually made sense to use, they didn't use it. Instead, they used a steady cam shot that was a oneer, and honestly, that was much more of a whiplash than anything else in this film. Another thing I wasn't a fan of was the hodgepodge soundtrack and just the placement of the needle drops. This combined with certain reveals and the worst delivery of a message that a movie can have, it practically just ended up feeling like an SNL parody. And for the way that all of this is edited, it just adds to it because my goodness, it's just, it's funny when it shouldn't be funny. And even then, it's a sad chuckle. It's a sad clown of a movie, and I was honestly just left speechless after the film and on my drive home. And not exactly in a good way. And look, the overall message of the film, I can get behind it, but just the way that it's delivered overall in the film and just from where it comes from in the story, it just feels like it comes from gotcha moments when it shouldn't, because these are kind of heavy topics that the film's dealing with, and the way it's just being shown and the way it's engraved in the story, it just felt disgusting to me and unnerving. And the reason for that is because these traumatic things that are happening are just treated like plot points rather than anything attached to the characters. And even them attaching these moments to these characters, it was all completely surface level. They completely forgo the nuance and the growth that a character can have from these events years later. And I get it can be a hard thing to do, but the way they go about it, they literally just make it like 3 plot points and one's kind of a plot point. And it's because of that, it just feels disturbing a bit. And I know these themes are going to resonate with many people, and I'm glad these themes will. It's just the way they're delivered is just, it just feels so lazy. And it's really unfortunate that I left unnerved about practically everything that this film was doing and gearing up for that message. But hey, this is a movie for the fans of the book and of Colleen Hoover, who I'm clearly not a fan of. I found myself not rooting for any character outside of Jenny Slate, honestly. And it mostly stems from most of these characters just not being written well at all. Either they're uninteresting or you just can't root for them because they're just not worth rooting for or getting on board with in any way. And that also plays into the reveals that happen in this movie, because because were they really reveals or were you just not paying attention? This is the type of movie that so many people are going to like, and I'm going to be called pretentious for not liking, but this is objectively just not a good movie. Down from the actual source material it's ripped from, at least I'm assuming because I never read it and I never will, all the way to the actual execution of the film. And look, Justin Baldoni, who's one of the main characters in this film, also directs the movie, and I'm sorry, but I just don't like a lot of his decisions in this. And in fact, this should have been directed by a woman too. But nevertheless, let's get back to the source material and what should have been in this movie. I was told two things and I wish they were true in this film because I would have liked it a bit more. The first being that the flower shop is actually steampunk in the book. What? And the even better thing, apparently in the novel, the main character is obsessed with Ellen. Why are these two things not in the movie? It would have pushed it even more into parody and I would have loved it for it. I don't know, I just felt like it should have included that. I would have had more fun at least. I give It Ends With Us a 1.5 out of 5 stars. A real quick question that's slightly spoilery. Why are there cinematic parallels on the actual birth dates of two different babies in this movie? And why are these adults stealing these babies' thunder on their date of birth? It was so frustrating. But alright, those are my thoughts on It Ends With Us. Be sure to let me know what you think of it down in the comments below. And let me know what other Colleen Hoover book you want adapted next. Personally, I feel like it should be none if this is the best it can get. But as always, thank you guys for liking, commenting, and subscribing. Be sure to stay tuned for more Yeti Films content, and I'll watch you later.